I understand that people often say appearance doesn't matter and that it's about personality. However, let's be honest. If there is an attractive woman standing alone on the other side of the room, you would likely approach her and start a conversation to get to know her. Now, if there is a woman who is physically unattractive and overweight also standing alone, would you still approach her and try to engage in a conversation? I am trying to understand how true the saying "looks don't matter" is because it has become exhausting to hear. While people claim that looks don't matter, my experience shows that men often do not approach those they perceive as unattractive to get to know them, primarily due to their appearance. Story 1. Looks bring you to the dance. Personality keeps you there. I have never been at a nightclub, looked across the room at a woman, and had my first thought be, I wonder what her personality is like. Story 2. Pretty important. The people who claim that looks don't matter are simply naive. When it comes to starting conversations with strangers, it depends on the situation, and it does not really matter. I said most, not all, which means a significant majority. A small minority may dispute this with me, but I never claimed it to be 100%. The upvotes speak for themselves. Hope we answered your question, OP. Story 3. It's important to note that when people say attraction starts with personality, that is not true. I need to be physically attracted to someone. Otherwise, I cannot have a relationship with them. This does not mean they have to be perfect. Story 4. Looks matter, and anyone who tells you otherwise is not being truthful. That being said, I would choose someone with a score of 3 who has a fantastic personality over someone who is a shallow 10 any day of the week, but I probably would not strike up a conversation with either of them. Instead, I will look for someone within my range. A score of 5, 6, or 7 if I am feeling adventurous. If a 7 has a poor personality, then it is game over. If a 5 or 6 has a great personality, then that is already a jackpot for me. Story 5. I was first attracted to my wife because I saw her across a crowded room and thought she was pretty. I wouldn't have married her on that basis alone because that would be foolish, but it was the reason I started a conversation with her in the first place. Looks matter, and anyone who says otherwise is not telling the truth. Having said that, some people are too specific and narrow-minded about looks, a problem that has only grown worse in the fashion-conformist era of social media, where every year Megan Fox looks more and more like a random influencer trying to resemble her. There is not one single standard for beauty. There are many different looks that can be attractive. Story 6. Nah, looks absolutely matter. I mean, there was this one woman the other day at work that I had to keep stopping myself from staring at. She was incredibly pretty in all the ways I like, and if not for the fact that she was married, I definitely would have tried to talk to her. On the flip side, I've gone from being overweight to being in great shape and taking care of my appearance, and the attention I received from women changed dramatically. That illusion was broken for me at a very young age when girls went from treating me like a ghost to suddenly giving me the time of day. Story 7. There are levels of attractiveness. If someone is obese, I tend to lose interest. I believe there is an attractiveness cutoff. Above it, attractiveness matters less. As others have mentioned, a solid 5 out of 10 who is genuinely fun and has a good personality is preferable to a 10 out of 10 who is unbearable to be around, at least in terms of relationships. One-night stands are a different topic. It's important to note that a 5 out of 10 represents average, which is actually quite good. However, below the cutoff, it doesn't matter how good your personality is. You won't even get the chance to show it. Story 8. The great thing about beauty is that it is subjective. What is attractive to one person might be unattractive to another. Attraction may draw someone in, but it will not keep them, especially because all beauty fades with time. However, even a beautiful woman will not be approached if she appears miserable. Story 9. Looks do matter, but other aspects are much more important. Physical attractiveness is the first thing we notice about someone, and first impressions are significant as well. For me, physical attraction is like a threshold that must be reached for me to be interested at all. Beyond that threshold, I value other factors more than appearance. Story 10. Looks do matter, but not in the ways that people assume. You need some level of physical attraction. Otherwise, the relationship may struggle. Some people say it is a balance of personality and looks. Additionally, Some individuals are simply attracted to those who do not conform to societal standards. While looks do matter, it is not a straightforward situation. An incredible personality can elevate someone's appeal from a 6 to a 10, while a poor personality can diminish a 10 to a 6. It is all about personal preferences. Always about preferences. Story 11. Let's say there is an attractive woman standing alone on the other side of the room. You would probably approach her, right? No, I don't cold approach anyone. Now let's say there is a woman standing alone across the room. You have never met or seen her before, and she is physically unattractive and overweight. Would you approach her and strike up a conversation? Still no. My preference is cute. I don't waste my time chasing the most attractive women. Story 12. Important. I need to be physically attracted to her. Fortunately, like most men, I find an average-looking woman attractive. Story 13. It goes back to that old song. She isn't pretty. She just looks that way. Looks matter, but personality endures. Story 14. You have to be attracted to your partner. For some people, being attracted means different things. I wouldn't approach someone I wasn't physically attracted to, but what I find physically attractive and what someone else finds can be vastly different. The reverse is also true. I have been described as objectively attractive more than once, yet I have been turned down by someone who prefers heavier individuals. There is nothing wrong with that. I mention this to highlight how complicated the question already is. Story 15. Admittedly, looks can be the initial spark that ignites interest, but it is personality that keeps the fire burning. Think of it like a book with a captivating cover. It might catch your eye, but you stay for the story. A person's appearance can open doors, but it is their character that invites you in and offers you a seat. It is a two-part equation where both elements are crucial. Attraction gets you to step forward, but compatibility determines if you want to stay. Remember, aesthetics might grab headlines, but it is the depth of the article that makes it memorable. Story 16. Looks matter. It's not all that matters, but anyone who says it doesn't is kidding themselves. I don't think anyone should strive to be perfect, but I believe everyone should aim to look their best. Looking your best helps build confidence, and after all, confidence is attractive. Story 17. Honestly, I wasn't very attracted to my girlfriend when we first met. Initially, it was only when I got to know her personally that I truly fell for her. I've met plenty of attractive women who didn't have much depth. As you get older, you realize that there's a lot more to a person than just their outward appearance. Story 18. I want to be attracted to any woman I date, but I also care about personality. What another man might consider a rating of 3 to 5 can be a 7 to 9 for me if she's really funny and cool. Story 19. I will approach women who are unconventional in appearance or slightly overweight. However, I will not approach those who are significantly overweight. At the same time, I have made friends with women I do not find physically attractive, but their personalities shine, which makes me want to pursue them. Story 20. If I meet a total stranger with no background or profile information, looks initially matter significantly. If I see a stranger engaging in behavior that attracts me, looks matter very little. After 10 minutes of meaningful conversation with a stranger, looks matter very little. After reading through a profile and appreciating a person's values, beliefs, thoughts, and musings, looks do not matter at all. My current wife took a considerable amount of time to answer questions and elaborate on her profile. Her pictures didn't matter once I reviewed everything. She may not be conventionally attractive, and we both are overweight for our size. It doesn't matter. We are a perfect match. Story 21. Of course, looks matter, but it's completely subjective. I distinguish between beautiful and attractive all the time. I couldn't tell you what qualities attract me physically, but I can almost guarantee that she's not the hottest girl in the room. Years ago, one of my friends commented that I never end up with the head turners, but I almost always get the worth a second look type, if that makes sense. Story 22. Let's say there is an attractive woman standing alone on the other side of the room. You would probably approach her, right? Maybe strike up a conversation to get to know her. No, that applies to only a small percentage of men. Most of us do not approach every attractive woman we see. Half of us never approach any woman at all. Looks do matter to me, though. However, they are a prerequisite and in no way sufficient on their own to guarantee attraction. She has to have more than just looks. An unattractive girl with a great personality would just fall into the friend zone for me. A beautiful girl with an unpleasant personality would fall into the category I do not engage with, as I do not use people for physical relationships, so she would just be nobody to me. Story 23. It depends on the individual. Most people care a great deal about appearance. However, when you find someone you truly connect with, you often stop being concerned about their looks, unless you are someone who allows others to influence your thoughts. If you take the time to observe your surroundings instead of sitting on your phone, you will notice many couples who clearly demonstrate that looks can be unimportant. Story 24. I would rate my wife a solid 9 and myself a 7. We are both in shape, but she has the look that combines features of Jennifer Connelly and Hayley Atwell. Thankfully, physical appearance wasn't her main criterion, as she can attract any guy and most girls in any setting. We can't even walk through a store without people telling me how lucky I am, which is a real boost to my self-esteem. I don't often think about how anyone looks, but my lack of interest in dating definitely changes my perspective. While looks and shape do matter, there is a reason taller salespeople tend to sell more. Psychology plays a significant role. Story 25. When it comes to romantic relationships, physical appearance matters, but it is not the only factor. I will not consider a relationship with a woman if I cannot see myself being intimate with her. That is the brutally honest truth. However, I am experienced enough to understand that I cannot build a relationship based solely on physical attraction. There must be compatibility in personal traits and beliefs. Story 26. Being honest, looks are the most important factor when it comes to initial attraction. There is no way around this. If I, as a man, do not find you physically attractive as a woman, I will not be able to date you or have a relationship beyond platonic levels. Being attracted to your partner is one of the foundations of a relationship. I think it's unfair to both your partner and yourself to be with someone you do not find attractive. In my personal opinion, I do not understand how people can date someone they do not find appealing but still get along. The spark will likely fade, and you will realize that your needs are not being met in a crucial aspect of the relationship. Story 27. The most important thing is that preferences vary. Some may choose physical attraction over kindness, while others may prioritize inner beauty. Story 28. I probably wouldn't talk to either of them. That said, appearance matters for some things. I wouldn't be in a relationship or hook up with someone I wasn't attracted to. The difference in levels of attraction over a certain threshold is much less important than other factors, but you do need to meet that threshold. It is very important up to that point. As a coworker, I don't care about your appearance as long as it's not unprofessional to the point of negatively impacting client relations. I'm going to work with whoever is competent so we can get things done. For random encounters in daily life, appearance doesn't matter much unless they are causing me a problem. Most people are just present, and I assume I am similarly a background item in their personal world. Story 29. Looks get things started, but personality attracts me even more. If she doesn't initially seem like my type, but we spend time together, I begin to appreciate her subtle beauty more. Eventually, I come to view her as an attractive person. Story 30. My wife has a great personality, but I would never have gotten to know her on a deeper level if I didn't have a surface-level attraction in the first place. Story 31. Appearance is important. Even if there is a trade-off with personality, which I believe is a false assumption, many men will prioritize looks. We are visually stimulated. I previously mentioned that the belief that an overweight woman with a winning personality is sufficient is misguided. This is because an overweight woman is often aware of her weight and may try to compensate with a superficial version of a personality. Story 32. There are no men anywhere saying that looks do not matter and that it is all about personality. Men are not saying that about women. If women are saying that to other women, they are not being truthful. If women are saying that in general, they are not being truthful. Looks matter. They matter a great deal. If we do not find you physically attractive, we will not be interested. It will not matter how great your personality is. A woman does not have to be conventionally attractive to be considered physically appealing. The standard for physical attractiveness for women is surprisingly low. It is very easy for a woman to be physically attractive to some men. Yes, we will approach women we find physically attractive. No, we will not approach women we do not find attractive. I do not know who is telling you that looks do not matter when it comes to male attraction to women. It is not true. Looks matter significantly. Story 33. Of course, it's important to have that attraction. But if she is fit yet vain, constantly on her phone or boring, then no thanks. The sexiest thing is when they are attractive but don't really realize it. A little makeup, unkempt hair, a summer dress, and a pair of sneakers. And having fun is key. A real good laugh is essential. I'm already picking out a ring. Story 34. It is very important to me that I put a lot of effort into my physical appearance, including grooming, fitness, fashion, and diet. I also desire a partner who values these aspects as well. Additionally, they need to be someone I enjoy spending time with and with whom I am compatible in other ways. I cannot seriously date someone I am not physically attracted to. Story 35. I always liked this Dustin Hoffman interview discussing women's appearances when he played the role of Tootsie. Story 36. No, I won't randomly approach a girl at the bar, no matter how she looks, and I am someone who is fairly social. What does weight have to do with anything? This post doesn't even read like a question. It feels more like a personal vent full of assumptions. To answer your question in the title, of course, looks are somewhat important. However, what I find attractive is not the same as what you find attractive. Attraction is not universal, and it's strange to act like it is. Story 37. Another way to express it is that appearance serves as the spark, while intangible qualities like personality and life goals determine whether that spark lands on bare ground, a small piece of dry straw, or a shed full of fireworks. Story 38. You have to remember that 18% of men and 12% of women die without ever marrying anyone, so the lower tier crowd isn't even allowed into the room. Of the rest, there's a good chance that approachability follows an exponential growth curve. Will the average person be approached? Maybe, given the right conditions. Will the most attractive person be approached a lot more? Almost guaranteed. What you lack in looks, you have to make up for in other desirable traits. People face this reality constantly. If you are the life of the party and super friendly, you will interact with more individuals than someone whose whole personality is insecurity about their appearance or body. Be outgoing, do the approaching, and don't just wait for life to fall into your lap. What someone ultimately weighs the possibility of a relationship on is what they can bring to the table. If it's not looks, make sure there's something else. Story 39. I would say this is a giant mixed bag of things. Many men never approach women. They really want to, but are often too shy or insecure. They live their whole lives hoping some girl will approach them or that they will randomly be super charming and charismatic. Some women are so good-looking that even confident men are afraid to approach them. Sometimes men see a woman who is attractive and think, she is out of my league, too young for me, too religious, or she might not like my race. There are also men who are delusional. They may not be attractive, but they believe they are good-looking, so they only approach attractive women, get rejected, and continue to try anyway. Many men find a partner online or go abroad to meet someone. Approaching women in real life has become something that is no longer accepted. The only time I see a man approach a woman who is overweight is usually by foreign men needing residency, older men going after younger but overweight women, or very skinny men. Story 40. Looks are very important. Anyone telling you that they are not is not being truthful. A good personality can make something undesirable appear valuable, but you still would not want to engage with something undesirable. Story 41. Looks matter, but not in the way you might think. A woman needs to be attractive enough to create a feeling of sexual attraction in a man, but that isn't a high standard. Beyond that, it is who she is as a person that determines if she is worth dating. Many women fall short in this regard. There are not many women who are good enough individuals to deserve a commitment. Story 42. Looks are nice, but attitude is everything. This is why attractive women are often single long after the more average-looking women are happily married. The average ones, out of necessity, had to develop a personality, and that ended up matching more. Story 43. Looks are extremely important. This is the first thing you notice about people. Yes, personality matters, but looks are crucial. Story 44. They matter a lot. This is coming from someone who may not be conventionally attractive. It is disingenuous to push the idea that appearances don't matter and that only inner qualities count. Yes, inner qualities are important, but physical appearance matters significantly. I have reached a point where I need to stop deceiving myself and accept this reality. I have dated several women who were not very attractive. They were wonderful individuals, kind, intelligent, and with great personalities. That's fantastic, but I simply did not feel a physical attraction. And while that may be sufficient for a while, the expectation eventually is that the relationship will progress physically. Story 45. It depends on what type of overweight we are referring to. Do we mean tastefully thick or actually obese? The same applies to the term ugly. Does she actually look deformed or simply not meet unconventional social expectations for appearance? Story 46. Not that important, really. 2 reasons. First, I have seen too many model-like individuals with unpleasant attitudes. Second, I do not consider myself particularly attractive. Story 47. I definitely wouldn't approach any woman who is standing alone in a room. Modern feminism has taught me that it can be seen as inappropriate. She could just be taking a moment to gather her thoughts or enjoying some time alone without seeking attention. From a dating perspective, appearance is important to me. Story 48. It is very important to recognize that even if a girl is a great person and funny, if I am not attracted to her, that is the end of it in terms of a relationship. On the other hand, physical appearance is not everything. If I am attracted to a girl but do not like her personality, I will end the relationship. In friendships, I care about personality. In a romantic relationship, I value both personality and appearance. Story 49. Looks don't matter is a common phrase people use to cope. Yes, looks matter. A lot. In fact, that is the only thing that matters initially. Story 50. Looks matter 100%, and anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. Attractiveness is the first thing people notice about you, and their brain automatically assesses how they will behave around you and whether they are interested in you. It's the hard truth. Personality comes second, and it can be attractive to many, but the icebreaker is definitely your looks and grooming. Story 51. They are important to everyone. If you are not attracted to someone, you will not feel compelled to approach, get to know, or procreate with them. This is particularly true for men. Looks don't matter. It's all about what is on the inside. That is something women often say, and for them, it is true in both cases. The appearance may not matter to them. What truly matters is what is inside your wallet. Story 52. Looks are certainly a factor. If I see a movie or a video game with compelling visuals, I will be more interested. However, if that is all there is to it, I will quickly move on. At the same time, if I learn about something that may not look as good but has other impressive qualities, I will definitely give it a chance. Story 53. To me, they aren't important personally, but they are significant to others, especially my wife, which means they are indirectly very important to me. Story 54. Looks 100% important in terms of attraction. When people say this, it's more like they don't matter as much as other things when it comes to long-term relationships. I'm sure a lot of people have dated very attractive individuals, only to find out their attractiveness is the only, or one of the only positive qualities about them. When you meet someone who you are attracted to, but perhaps isn't as attractive as the previously mentioned person, yet they possess more positive qualities that make for a long-term partner, then you realize that being attractive in and of itself is not the most important part. But make no mistake, it is an important part. Story 55. I wouldn't approach either woman. I know that looks are important enough that neither would want to be approached by a man like me. Story 56. She doesn't need to use excessive makeup. That's unappealing anyway. However, she should be clean and presentable. As long as she maintains good hygiene and appearance, that matters. Story 57. For me, they are just as important as a good personality for a relationship. For a one-night stand, it's all that matters. For friendship, it doesn't matter at all. Story 58. It's important in the sense that I have to be attracted to her. Not in the sense that she has to be perfect. It's very important, but obviously, it's not everything. Story 59. I don't need the woman in my life to be the most attractive woman in the world. I wouldn't choose the most attractive jerk over a good-looking woman with a great personality. However, I do need her to be attractive enough for me to feel a sexual attraction, or it's a deal breaker. Story 60. Only women say looks don't matter because it's illegal to hurt people's feelings. All things considered, appearances are a significant factor in life. Story 61. Looks definitely do matter, and that's coming from a demisexual. I know myself. I want a woman who is attractive to me. More importantly, I want someone whose personality connects with mine, so I have no shame about the former. Story 62. Looks matter to an extent for both men and women. Most men would prefer a person with a good attitude who wants to date them, even if they rate a 4 in looks, over a person rated a 10 who offers nothing but their appearance. Story 63. It depends on other factors. For a woman to be dateable, she needs to have the right mix of attractiveness, intelligence, and kindness. If one of those attributes is lacking, another must compensate for it. Story 64. They are just as important as personality. I am not going to date the most beautiful woman if she is a terrible person, and the opposite is also true. Story 65. If I am not physically attracted to the person, they are categorized into the conversation group shared by friends, married individuals, family, and others. It is not bad company, but it is certainly not a situation where we can pursue anything beyond casual conversation. Story 66. Honestly, it is important. She should be physically attractive to some extent, but it is not everything. Who she is as a person also matters. Story 67. Let's say there is an attractive woman standing alone on the other side of the room. You would probably approach her, right? Now, if she is conventionally attractive, meaning she matches beauty standards and has invested in her appearance, the chances are even lower. Story 68. Quite, but it's not as if my standards are limited to the highest percentile. Reasonably attractive will gain my attention. Personality will keep me around. Story 69. Important enough. Conventional beauty is not everything, but there are certain qualities that matter to me. It is important that she is not obese. Being chubby is acceptable, but obesity is not. Additionally, good hygiene is essential, as greasy hair, an unclean face, or unpleasant odors are a turn-off. My most superficial preference is that I appreciate nice, straight, white teeth and a pleasant smile. Story 70. Using a scale from 1 to 10 might be helpful. I typically find individuals rated as 5 to be attractive in the sense that I would be willing to engage with them and not feel embarrassed to be seen together. Anyone I personally rate as 4 or below would not be someone I would consider for a romantic relationship. In this context, physical appearance is important, so the person must at least be rated a 5. They could potentially be an 8 if they lost weight, changed their hairstyle, dressed better, wore makeup, or had some cosmetic enhancements. However, my initial attraction to them as a 5 is what truly matters. Would I appreciate their efforts to improve their appearance? Absolutely. But what really counts once they are at least a 5 is that I like them more as a person, as that is what will sustain our relationship in the long run. Story 71. If a girl is unattractive, I won't approach her because what is the point? Looks don't matter applies to the difference between average-looking and attractive girls, not the difference between unattractive and average girls. Story 72. I'm trying to understand how true the idea that looks don't matter really is. Looks do matter because if I'm not attracted to someone, I won't be able to date them. However, as long as you're attractive enough to catch my interest, looks become less significant, and I'm not even that picky. I could find a woman to be a perfect 10 physically, but that wouldn't matter at all if I couldn't tolerate her. Story 73. Looks definitely play a role in initial attraction and approach, but they aren't everything. An attractive person might catch your eye first, but many individuals will approach someone who isn't conventionally attractive if they are drawn to their personality or find them interesting. It's a mixed bag. Looks can spark initial interest, but genuine connections often come from deeper interactions and shared values. Story 74. There is ugly and there is hideous. Ugly is only skin deep. Hideous goes to the core. One of my ex-girlfriends was a 5 or 6 at most but was an absolute banshee in bed. It was like sexual napalm. I could not stay away from her. It wasn't just me. She had men sniffing around all the time, with many male friends always checking in. She even had a former lover as a roommate. I asked why he stuck around and he said he was addicted to her. I eventually figured out that she would sleep with them occasionally to keep them interested. She needed to know that she was desirable to many men. I left after finding out she was involved with someone I knew used meth and cocaine. Story 75. As with everything, a lot depends on the context. In a business scenario, for example, looks mean nothing to me. If I'm at a business seminar and networking is required, I don't care if she has one leg, an eye patch, and a spider tattoo on her forehead. In fact, all of those could make nice icebreakers. If I were looking for a romantic involvement, then of course it makes a difference. Also, it works both ways. Story 76. They absolutely do matter, so do not let anyone tell you otherwise. If you want to have a monogamous sexual relationship with someone, you need to be attracted to each other. You do not need to be completely captivated by one another. They do not need to be the most attractive person you have ever seen, and you do not have to be the embodiment of their dreams. However, you must genuinely want to engage in physical intimacy often enough that your sexual life together is satisfying for both of you. Story 77. Looks can help you get your foot in the door, but they do not create lasting relationships on their own. The most you can expect from looks alone is a few weeks, possibly a few months, with good physical attraction involved. Story 78. I need to be physically attracted to a woman, so she should be in shape and appear to care about her body. I am not interested in dating someone who is significantly overweight. I am 39 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall, and weigh 165 pounds, with about 5% body fat. Although I may not be considered conventionally attractive, I believe I am a decent person. I have low debt, a high credit score, and I am financially secure, having built a life for myself that I value. I am definitely not looking to date someone who does not contribute positively to my life. Looks are not the only important factor. What matters more is what else she has to offer. If she is in significant debt or seeks someone to take care of her without any reciprocity, that raises concerns. Is her attractiveness only a facade to hide serious character flaws? Is she a single mother? Has she had multiple partners? Does she have unrealistic expectations? Has she been divorced several times? Is she on medication that affects her behavior? Does she project her insecurities onto me? I will stop there, but I believe these traits are much more important than physical appearance. It is essential to maintain a healthy body, dress appropriately, and remain approachable and friendly, even in the face of rejection. Story 79. They have some level of importance, but definitely not the be-all or end-all of things. If I had to assign a numerical value, I would say 3 out of 10 for that, 6 out of 10 for personality, and everything else adds up to 1 out of 10. Story 80. What draws you to open the door to getting to know someone? Personality and substance are what make you stay. At first, looks are important, but beauty is fleeting. Eventually, you will grow old and wrinkled. What remains is the character of the person you are with. It can be a difficult life if you spend your twilight years with someone who has a terrible personality. Looks fade. A person needs to have much more than just appearance. Story 81. I don't want to seem shallow, but I think you have to be attracted to the other person to have a good relationship. However, good looks are subjective. I could be attracted to someone that others might not find attractive. Story 82. Important, but style and vibe matter more to me. I would prefer to date a moderately attractive woman who is feminine, stylish, and classy than someone who is overly provocative and carries herself in a rough manner. Story 83. That is not how it works at all. Unattractive women are far more approachable than attractive women. They are simply less desirable from a physical standpoint. Story 84. Yes, looks matter. You need physical attraction, but it helps that some guys like bigger women, just as some women prefer husky men. Everyone has a type, and not every type appeals to everyone. Story 85. I believe most men have a standard when it comes to looks in dating. I also think that men tend to be more tolerant of certain issues the more attractive a woman is. We've all had a friend who dated someone who was unambitious and dull but exceedingly attractive and simply accepted it. Story 86. It's important. If I'm not physically attracted to you, I can't have a relationship with you. However, if I go on more than 2 dates with you, it's safe to assume you've met the physical attraction standard. Story 87. I don't think it's that simple, but physical beauty is an important aspect of attraction, at least initially. However, it's also important to note that when there is compatibility in terms of personality, people tend to elevate their perception of attractiveness compared to objective observers. Story 88. Looks are always important. Of course, they matter. However, you only need to be reasonably attractive in my eyes if you are genuinely a wonderful person. Hyper-focusing on beauty is unwise and counterproductive to finding a good partner, in my opinion. Story 89. About as equally important as height, personality, and money are to women. This also explains why older men tend to prefer younger women and why women are often attracted to older men. Story 90. Looks matter, but what qualifies as attractive for many men is a much wider range than people might think. This is why you sometimes see posts from women who are puzzled when men approach them in sweatpants without doing their hair or makeup. What qualifies as attractive is often broader than you may think. Additionally, the assumption that men would approach and strike up a conversation with a stranger, no matter how attractive, is often misguided. In most cases, that is unlikely to happen. Story 91. Looks are less important than energy. Someone who is very attractive but bored and playing with their phone is much less interesting than someone who is attentive and a little flirty. Story 92. Looks don't matter to a point. You don't have to be a perfect 10 or fit typical beauty standards, but I definitely need to be physically attracted to you. That being said, I would choose a 6 with a great personality over a 10 without one any day. Personality can make someone more attractive. Story 93. Yes, but I think there is a point of diminishing returns. I recognize that a rating of 10 is more attractive than a rating of 7, but I am willing to talk to both to understand their personalities. Honestly, I might not even approach the person rated a 10 out of fear. Personality can make a significant difference. A great personality can elevate a 6 to a 10 in my eyes. Story 94. I believe looks are a spectrum. I have only seen a few truly unattractive women in my life. Everyone usually has at least something appealing about their appearance. That being said, I do not date or romantically approach anyone I am not attracted to. Story 95. Looks are not overly important. I care more about how well individuals take care of themselves and how they treat everyone around them. Story 96. It is important to clarify that not all men find the same things attractive. A woman must meet a minimum level of attractiveness for a specific man to desire to approach her and start a conversation. Story 97. It is very important for better self-esteem. Some things cannot change, but others are changeable. Go for it. Story 98. In life, there is the march of the lemmings, and that's where appearance comes in. Nobody talks about it in polite conversation. It is assumed. Some people really don't like you even implying it. They will downvote you on social media for even whispering about it. But just look around and ask yourself. This is how it goes. Most people aspire to financial success, men to appearance, and women to men displaying leadership, career stability, and the ability to provide a context for having children. A lot of that can be about money too. Most women are drawn to babies like bees to honey, whether they want their own or not. The next time a work colleague brings her new baby into the office, every other woman in the room will drop everything and go straight for the baby. Well, with men, an attractive woman is exactly the same. They may keep working, but they will want to look. It is all visceral and highly competitive, like a vast river of lemmings moving through the bushes. Nobody really understands why those motivations are so powerful, why these tendencies are in our DNA, and why hormones are so influential in our lives. You can try to be more rational or idealistic, you can try to pretend, but there it is. Can you create a good life and find a good partner if you are just average, like most of us? Fortunately, of course you can, but the competitive process remains a powerful current in our lives, and appearance is part of that. Story 99. I would say charisma rather than appearance. Appearance is a part of it, obviously, but really it is charisma that stands out in terms of my desire to engage in conversation. Story 100. Beauty is subjective, so just because one person finds the woman across the street to be attractive and approachable, it doesn't mean another person will have the same reaction. Story 101. Being honest, there is a point at which I would say no regarding appearance, but it is still a factor. I would prefer to be with someone more attractive than less attractive. Story 102. Not everything but also far from nothing. It's like wandering in a bookstore. The cover draws me in, but its content keeps me interested. Story 103. Looks matter the most until you get a chance to talk. Then they can quickly become unattractive and vice versa. Story 104. Honestly, my standards are quite low. Physically unattractive, perhaps, but it would depend on how much overweight someone is. I probably won't go for obese, but being a bit chubby is fine, to be honest. Story 105. As I have gotten older, looks have mattered less to me. Honestly, the only aspect related to looks that I cannot compromise on is a pretty face. It does not matter if someone is curvy, skinny, tall, or short. Just having a pretty face goes a long way. Story 106. My brother doesn't have an account, but he wants to share his thoughts. What he likes is quite different from what many of his friends are looking for, demonstrating that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Story 107. Looks matter to a point. I want a woman who is still cute and puts in at least a little effort into her appearance, but it's a much lower priority than compatibility and personality. My first girlfriend was a bit overweight and wore almost exclusively shorts and t-shirts, but she was so much fun to be around. Story 108. It all depends on the venue. If it is business-oriented, I don't care what a person looks like at all. I would introduce myself and ask about them. In a purely social setting, if I were single, I would be more likely to approach someone I found attractive rather than someone I found unattractive. However, my definitions of attractiveness may differ from popular belief. Beauty and attraction are very subjective. I'm also less likely to approach an attractive woman across the room since she might seem out of my league. Most men might feel that approaching someone at their own level would be more reasonable. However, there are some men with high confidence who will approach women they perceive to be out of their league. I would definitely engage with anyone in a group setting rather than one-on-one and try to learn more about them. People can become more or less attractive once they start speaking and revealing more about themselves. There is no magic formula here. Story 109. Looks matter a lot, but you are mistaken about approaching someone. Just because someone is attractive does not mean a guy will walk up to them every time. Story 110. It is not that important to me. Yes, they matter a bit, but not much. Currently, I am dating someone who has been bullied their whole life for being ugly, and I think he is stunning. Whoever I am attracted to, I believe they are beautiful inside and out, Story 111. In this context, yes, looks do matter. Obviously, if the first thing I notice about you is how your face looks, then that is the first level of decision I will make about you. I believe a more sensible interpretation of that saying would be looks shouldn't matter, because they do not determine whether your experience with anyone will be pleasant or not. Story 112. My approach to dating is that first we are casual partners, and if I like you, then we date. It has worked so far. I'm not going to date someone I don't feel proud to show off. Story 113. If you are going to spend a significant amount of time and money on something that will last for an indefinite period, you should prefer looking at it. Story 114. Looks matter to everyone. However, everyone has different tastes. If you are your best self, you will attract the people you desire. Story 115. I have fallen for women who were perfect to me, but others told me I was exaggerating. I guess there is more to attraction than just looks. Story 116. They mattered a lot more to me when I was younger. There are many more important things to me now. Story 117. Looks are important, of course, but that doesn't necessarily mean conventional beauty. I find many types of women attractive. Attraction can also grow the more I get to know someone. While attraction is more important than looks, they are somewhat interconnected. Story 118. For me, looks are not very important. Most women are sexually attractive to me, but I am definitely not interested in romance with just anyone. Therefore, looks have always been a less important criteria than personality when looking for a girlfriend. Story 119. Let's say there is an attractive woman standing alone on the other side of the room. You would probably approach her, right? Now, I do not usually make a habit of approaching people and starting conversations, regardless of their attractiveness. Story 120. I don't think that the idea that looks don't matter is widespread anymore. In the 20th century, there was social pressure to look deeper, but even then, most people would agree that looks matter. They just felt ashamed to admit it. Even a century ago, popular songs and books would compliment women on their appearance, which demonstrates the true spirit of the time. Story 121. Honestly, it matters if I don't know her, but if I know her as a friend or colleague and understand her personality and thoughts, then her appearance doesn't matter to me. Story 122. It's nice to have a cute face. I can work with a little chubbiness, but not obesity. A thicker woman is wonderful to snuggle up to. Story 123. If someone is very attractive, they typically do not have a great personality because they never needed to develop one. For that reason, I would say looks are important but not everything. I need to have engaging conversations with a person I am going to be with, and if they lack intelligence and personality, I will not be talking to that attractive person for long. Story 124. I once received a message from a woman on a dating app who was highly intelligent and about to earn her Doctor of Philosophy degree. She probably became very successful, and I'm sure she was a lovely person, but the attraction just wasn't there. She looked like a combination of Ellen DeGeneres and Dana Carvey. It may sound unappealing, but that was my impression. Story 125. Looks are very important to me, but what I find attractive and what others find attractive can be very different. As long as I'm attracted to a woman, I don't really care if she's conventionally attractive. Story 126. I feel like it's important, but not everything. It is important for deciding who to approach, but I could be attracted to some based on personality as well. Story 127. I will be very honest. To me, looks do matter. I haven't dated much, but every woman I have dated was good-looking. I am married now, and my wife is beautiful. However, she is also overweight, which I do not prefer. Story 128. Just my opinion. Looks account for 75% and personality for 25%. If you have a poor personality, there is no chance of my interest. Story 129. I believe appearances do not need to be exceptional. They just have to be attractive enough to create sexual attraction before any interaction with that person. Story 130. If the most beautiful woman has a bad personality, is rude, ungrateful, entitled, or unkind, even if she is just one or two of those things, it's a definite no. It doesn't matter how attractive she is. There is a 0% chance I would want a relationship with someone who has strong negative personality traits. If a girl isn't classically attractive but is kind, fun to be around, thoughtful, respects me and others, works hard and plays hard, and doesn't take herself too seriously, she becomes more attractive. I would certainly prefer to spend my life with someone like this than with an attractive person who is unpleasant to be with. If I still wasn't attracted to the nicer person, it would still be a no because attraction is important in romantic relationships, but character and personality significantly enhance attractiveness. Story 131. It's not everything, but there is definitely a minimum standard you have to meet. You don't have to be perfect, but it's natural to want more than a mediocre rating. In my experience, appearance does affect a person. I've encountered many individuals who are insecure and seek validation for their every choice, regardless of their looks. I've also met those who are overly confident because they know they can achieve what they desire. Both types can be toxic and frustrating. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.